Hello, everyone. Welcome to our weekly Thursday Live. I am your host, Stephanie McPhail. My husband, David, and Sharon and I are the experts in helping people end the cycle of unhealthy relationships. I am also an author of the #1 new release in codependency, Being Loved Shouldn't Hurt. I have a book and a workbook available on Amazon. And I am also the coach and admin of this wonderful, amazing group. So I want to welcome all of you, especially those of you who are new. This might be your first live stream. And then, of course, all of you who come and look forward to these live streams every week. This is a really great place to get information and learn more and go into more depth into, what is going on with your relationship, because a lot of times we can get very confused on what's real. And so today's going to be a really important topic. So as you come on, make sure you say hello. We like to say hi to all of our viewers. If you are watching this as a replay, make sure you still comment. You can do #replay and also tag myself just to make sure that I see your comments. If I don't respond to everything live, I will go back and respond to it later on. So thank you so much for coming on today. It's so good to see you. We love interaction, so ask those questions. And again, I don't get to ask it live. Don't worry about it. I'll come back and ask them later. So hi, how are you doing today? This is one of those things. I actually had 3 clients in a row yesterday ask me questions about this topic. So I said, you know what? We've got to talk about this today. It's what really stood out. So I've got some questions for you. And if they resonate for you, just make sure you comment yes in there. Yeah, it looks like some of these questions already. So number 1, does your partner act one way in front of some people and then differently around you? So it sounds like for Lindsay, that's a definite yes. If that resonates for you, just comment yes, because that was a huge issue for me, which can really make us feel like we're going crazy. Number 2, do they tell you that you're overreacting, that things weren't as bad as you were making them out to be? I used to get that one all the time too. You're making a big deal out of nothing. Relax. What's wrong with you? As like something really terrible actually happened, but they're downplaying it all. Hi, Gloria. Do you question yourself? You can't figure out what is real anymore. When we've been around unhealthy, toxic partners, we can get really easily confused on what reality is. And there's a good reason why they do this, which we're going to get into today. So all of those things is signs or questions for people that have had to deal with gaslighting. So people throw that word around a lot, and I'm not sure everybody really knows what it is, but it is such an amazing tactic to keep us wrapped into the unhealthy relationship. And we don't even know it's necessarily happening at the time. So I want to make sure that I go through it so that you know some of the warning signs. I'm going to give you 10 different examples so that by the end, you're going to know some like real concrete examples of what gaslighting is. And I'm going to give you a hint of something that you can do to help you if you are finding yourself ever currently in this situation or in the future in this situation. This should last about 30 minutes, so stick around for the whole thing. If you need to leave and come back, then definitely do that. But definitely watch the entire 30 minutes, again, give or take. But I wanted to give you a heads up of how long this video is going to go for. So I wanted to give you first a definition of what gaslighting is. So gaslighting is when you manipulate someone by psychological means into questioning their own sanity. So, there's an example of back in the day, in 1944, there was a movie about a man who gaslit his wife so badly that, he would turn on the stove and then tell her that she had done it. And the whole story is about her starting to spiral into feeling actually crazy. And so that's where the term comes from. So it's psychological means to try to control. And they make you start to question who you are. And there's a lot of reasons why they do this. So the first one, and again, as these resonate for you, as you feel like, this is a good example for you, just let me know your thoughts about it in the comments as we go. So the first one is they tell blatant lies. Very obvious ones that they deny that they ever said anything, even though you might have proof. All right, so here's an example for me, and I'd love to hear an example from you. So write down an example that you might have experienced that with in your own personal life. But for me, a blatant lie was, when I was married to my first husband on our wedding night, he chased me around the honeymoon suite and strangled me. Afterwards, at first he was like, yes, I did it. I shouldn't have done that. It'll never happen again. Then after a while, he said, you know what? I don't even really remember that happening. I think you made it up. And so he started to just turn everything around and make it seem like none of those things had happened, that I was making it, well, I didn't really strangle you. I just lost my temper. And then he was like trying to minimize all of the experience that I had. And I just remember thinking like, how would I make up being strangled? Like I felt you around my neck. I felt my inability to fight back anymore. And they will use whatever they can to make you feel bad and make you feel uncomfortable. So number one, they tell blatant lies. Number two, they use what is near and dear to you as ammunition. So if you have children together, they're going to try to manipulate and, use the children against you. They're going to make your family, your education, your position, anything about you and your personality to try to make you feel bad about yourself. So, I remember at one point, my ex had told me, well, you're screwed up. There's something wrong with you. And he actually, this is actually ridiculous, but he said, I think there's something so wrong with you that, your father probably tried to sexually molest you and you just don't remember it. And I was like, I love my father. Like he's someone that I respect very dearly. And for him to say that, who was someone that I thought I was in love with, for him to tell me that, I just remember looking at him and being like, what? Why would you even say that? Because it hurt my feelings that he would say that about my father. And then it hurt my feelings that it was someone that I respected and admired. And then of course I questioned my own sanity of like, is there something screwed up in my life that I really can't remember, or that I don't, that I don't know what's going on. So I was, and then he would say, well, you have a degree in psychology, but you're obviously really screwed up. You don't know what you're doing. So he would try to use that. He would use my education against me. He would try to use my family against me and just try to make me feel like they were screwed up, like that something was wrong with them. People that I looked up to, things that I felt very kindly or felt very strongly about myself, he tried to turn those things around. So they will do that. They will make you feel like certain experiences in your life are different from what they are. And you can get confused enough where you start to actually question it. Number three, they wear you down gradually. Someone who is gaslighting you doesn't normally start with gaslighting. They very slowly over time start whittling away at you. If they did it right away, if on the first date they started turning around the truth and twisting the truth, you'd probably, even the most codependent person would see that right away and run the other direction. But instead, what they do is slowly over time. So what they do is they look for the things about you, and as they get to know you, they use those little pieces against you to slowly over time make you feel bad. So like, I use the example when I first got with my ex-husband, he would always talk about how attractive I was and I would go to the gym. And he liked that I exercised. But then he started giving me a hard time about going to the gym. I don't really want you to go to the gym. I want you to spend more time with me. So then I would feel bad, like, oh, he's right. Maybe I do need to spend more time with him. So I'd come and spend more time with him. And then he would say, hey, you look like you're gaining weight. You look like you're getting fat. And so it was something that was hurting my feelings that he was using against me. And it was slowly done over time. And it was like, oh, okay, well, I must be looking fat. I must not be as attractive. And then, well, you said these things and now I'm mad at you for it. So, so it was like this constant little things over time. Or like I had said to my ex-husband in the very beginning of our relationship, hey, I had a really bad, unhealthy relationship as my last relationship. And then what he did was that he used that information to keep me around. So he manipulated me with the fact, because I said to him, I just don't think I'm that good at relationships. I think that I've got an issue with relationships. So he even said to me, well, I'm going to show you what a healthy relationship is like. I'm going to teach you what it's like. So the times when I would start to question myself and think, maybe is this wrong? And he'd be like, well, you've never been in a healthy relationship, so how would you know? So again, over time, manipulate and make you question, because I didn't know any better. So I wanted to believe him. I thought that he actually knew what he was talking about. He was there to support me, teach me, and help me, because I had never had a healthy relationship to begin with. But of course, we know I should have just not been in a relationship yet until I figured out why I kept attracting these unhealthy people. But that's a whole other thing. The next one, number 4, they say one thing, but then they do something completely different. So, my ex-husband would say, well, I want to work on our relationship, I want this relationship to work. And I would say, okay, well then I need you to not curse at me. And he'd say, okay, I'm never going to do that again. And then the very next time, the exact words that I would tell him not to use when we were having an argument, he would use that against me. We would talk about going to therapy, and he would say, okay, well, I know that I'm screwed up. So he'd give me a little piece of information like, okay, I'm going to agree with you. Like, I know that I've got some issues. I'm going to go to therapy. And then he would just stop going. So I would think that there was some things going on. I would see some possible changes happening, but then he would stop going and I wouldn't know. So he was using that to manipulate me, to keep me around even longer, to just make me believe that there was a possibility of him changing. So, and then I'd all of a sudden start to see him act differently. And I would say, well, what's going on? And he would say, well, nothing. And I'm like, well, where have you been going? And then he would make up some lie and I would believe him. And I would see his attitude get worse and worse. And then he would turn around on me and say, well, I'm going to therapy. Maybe you need to go to a different therapist. Maybe what you're doing isn't right. And what was happening is that I was continuing to go to therapy and he had just stopped going to therapy. So it was another manipulation tactic. The next one, number 5. They throw in positive reinforcement to confuse you. This is where it gets so confusing. And this is where I actually had a client the other day, and we had an in-depth conversation about this, and I'd love to hear your responses. So write down your responses to this one. They will do something nice in order to make you feel confused. So, like they might go get you flowers, or they might, make you dinner. My ex-husband, every once in a while, like he would plan these really nice events for like my birthday, for example. I can think of, 3, 4, maybe 5 birthdays or holidays of some kind where he planned something really, really, really nice. He would do it good. I'd be like all excited. Yay, we're going to have a great time on my birthday. It's going to be so great. And then he would mess it up. He would do something to screw up my birthday. It would always end up in disaster, it would always end up in disaster. So I'd get all excited, like, oh, he's doing something nice. He invited my friends. It's this really great thing. And then he would like say something mean to my friends, or we'd get into a big fight at the end of my birthday, or the next day he would tell me that I didn't seem grateful enough, or, so it came across as like, oh, he's doing something really nice to help me out. But then he would throw it in my face later. He'd make me a nice dinner. And I'd be like, oh, okay. And so they do that to throw you off, to confuse you. Because he would make a nice dinner and then it was like, oh, wow, maybe he isn't so bad. Maybe he is trying and he is trying to do nice things to help me and be supportive. I come home and he'd be cleaning or something. Like, oh, okay, cool. This is good. This is good stuff. So again, it's like giving you that little crumb to make you still feel like you're getting sucked back into that relationship. They give you little pieces of something to try to keep you attached. So that positive reinforcement, they'll say something nice, like they might say something nice about, your looks or your job or, something like that. But then they'll turn it around at some other point and use that same exact thing against you. And I don't know if that resonates for anyone watching this, but that was something that would happen all the time. Number 6. They keep you confused. Confusion weakens people. The more confused you are, the more you feel depleted, the more unsure you are of yourself. So the reason why they want to do that is they want you to feel off balance. The more off balance you are, the more you're looking for stability. The more you're looking for stability, the more they put themselves out there as they are the person who is stable and you're the one who is not. So therefore, you need to go and ask them questions. It puts them in more of a role of authority. Like, well, you're screwed up and you're confused, but I know better. I know that this is the right way of doing things. So then you're like, oh, okay, well, I am confused because they're doing it. They're making us confused. And then they're trying to tell us that they can give us the answers that we're looking for so that we're not so confused. And it ends up being this vicious cycle because we just get more and more confused. Like, wait a minute, he's the one who's supposed to love me, or she's the one who's supposed to love me. and they're doing these things that don't make any sense, but maybe I'm screwed up. Maybe I don't know any better. I know that I've got my own issues, and I'm sure he's got his or she's got their own issues. Okay, well, it's got to be me. We just kind of assume like if I do things differently, then it's going to have a different reaction. But it's not, because they're just using all of it to just manipulate you anyway. And they do. They make you feel like you're crazy. I constantly felt like I was crazy. I would question myself on everything. With a client yesterday, we were talking about how she's like, I'm just wondering if I'm the one making such a big deal out of this. Like, she's like, when I look back at it, I just think, her husband had actually yelled and screamed in the morning. And then when she tried to talk about it later, he was like, well, no, that wasn't really that big of a deal. I didn't really yell and scream. And she was like, but you called me names. And she was so confused. And she was like, well, maybe I am making a bigger deal out of this than I am, because he's telling me that I am. And so because we don't trust ourselves, because they've confused us so much, we don't know what's reality anymore. And they do this. So, and of course we helped her talk about how to work through that. Because they love to do that. They love to turn things and manipulate you. Number 7, they project. Oh my goodness. The projection. My ex-husband would tell me all the time that I was cheating on him. He would tell me that he was, that I was not listening, that I was the one causing all the problems in our relationship. He would project all of his insecurities on me. And so I started to see what he was doing. And when he would have his moments of clarity, he would tell me, hey, I'm saying it to you so that you don't say it back to me. He would say that. He would actually tell me. So again, those little bits, and again, that gaslighting, because it screws with your head, like, all right, well, in these moments of clarity, he's telling me that he knows he's projecting. He knows he's making it up and putting it on me to make me feel bad. So since he knows this, maybe there's something that he can do to fix it. And then maybe if we talk about it, then we can figure this out and we can make this better, because he's obviously aware. Nope, it was just another manipulation tactic. It was another way to get into my head and make me not feel stable. Because again, your brain, our brain, is looking for things that make sense. So when things don't make sense, we still try to grab at straws to try to figure out how we can make sense of a situation that doesn't really make any sense. So when like someone's drowning, they look around for someone to hold them afloat. And when the person afloat is your partner and they're the only one around, and again, we'll talk about why, because they're the only one around. But when they're the only one around, then they're the only one that we can have that conversation with. And they're the ones who keep manipulating and making us confused. So, it's a great way to keep us off kilter, is to make us like, hey, I'm projecting. Okay, cool. So let's talk about that. Well, no, now that I don't feel this way anymore, I don't want to talk about it. It's really all your fault again. So constantly this like, I think we figured it out. Okay, no, we didn't, and so you keep going back and forth. The next one, they tell you things that people said to them. So said to them. They try to align people against you, or they make you believe that people are against you. So my ex, and again, if this resonates, please share. I'd love to hear your perspective on this. But my ex would tell me that our friends that we hung out with didn't really like me, that they liked him, that they felt that I was too opinionated. Some of my closest friends, he would tell me things that they had said about me to him personally. And he would say, well, this was in confidence and I wasn't supposed to tell you. And, and then he would say things like, your friends think you're crazy, or they think that you're being overly dramatic, or they think that, there's something really wrong with you, and he would say all these things. And then I would start to question my friendships, or I'd question my family, or I'd go out in public and see his friends. And I would, the same thing. I would kind of like, revert into myself, because I'd think, well, they're telling him that they don't really like me. And so I would be really confused. Because like they would be really nice to me to my face. And then I started to feel like, wow, all of these people are just really fake. They're all pretending to like me, but really, actually, nobody likes me at all. So when you feel more and more secluded, then who do you turn to? The person who is being abusive towards you. So, I mean, at least that's what they're looking for. That's what they're hoping for. And so the more they can keep your family and friends away, the more you come back. I mean, he would tell me all the time, other people don't really have healthy relationships. There's no such thing as a healthy relationship. You're living in lollipops and rainbows. Everyone else is fake. They're telling you that they're happily married, but they're not. And again, this was my partner, so I would want to believe him. And so, making you feel like everybody is against you makes you want to turn towards your partner that much more. It's scary. And what's scary is that these people, it's like, I say all the time with clients, it's like there's a handbook. There's the handbook of gaslighters, and they all do the same stuff. This is probably resonating for a lot of you because this is the same stuff over and over again. This is what I deal with clients. I share more about this in my book and my workbook, Being Loved Shouldn't Hurt. These are the things that they do and that they use all the time. The next thing, number 9, they tell you and or others that you are crazy. So they've done all this manipulating. They have pulled you away from your friends and your family. And then when you bring things up and you try to talk about what happened, they will tell you that you're crazy. And they will tell their friends, oh, guess I'm dealing with crazy at home. And so that when you try to speak up, the people that they know, they will make it seem like you're the crazy one. And they use that against you. This kind of goes into this and then one of the other ones. But when I was speaking with a client yesterday, we were talking about how it's such a perfect example of gaslighting. They were at a party, and this would happen to me all the time. They were at a party and they were having a really, really good time. Like really good time. And she looked at her significant other and was like, he's so fun. He's so fun. He's so energetic. People pleaser. People like him. People respect him. He was really nice to her. All of those things. So they're out in public and they're doing all of these really nice things. So then it goes back to acting one way and doing something else. It's like taking all those pieces of gaslighting, putting it together. In public, they're able to manipulate you even more because now they have an audience. So they can totally make you feel crazy. Because you're like, but when I'm at home, he's calling me names, he's cursing me out. My ex-husband would wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning and pull the sheets off of me. He would leave me places and then tell me it was my fault that he left me there. He spit on me, strangled me, and then tell me, well, that didn't really happen. And because nobody else was there, I felt like I couldn't prove it. Like nobody else knows what's really happening. Am I totally making all of this stuff up? And then I'd see him in public and he'd be this super friendly, outgoing, wonderful person. I'm like, but that's the guy that I'm in love with. That's the guy that I like spending my time with. And so you feel that craziness come on. It's confusing. The last one. They tell you that everyone else is a liar. So if you have a friend that might still be sticking around and they come and say to you something like, hey, I'm really concerned about your safety. I'm concerned that something bad's going to happen to you. Again, like what I said before, there are such things as healthy relationships. You don't have to stick around this. They will turn it around and try to make that person seem like a liar. They will tell you that they are lying. Again, they go back to that other tactic of, saying that everybody's against you, but they're going to try to prove them to be a liar. My ex-husband pretty much made it so that, I had one close girlfriend close to me. Like we hung out all the time. And he would tell me all the time, well, when we go out, she ruins parties. When we go out, she makes a big deal and she makes a scene and all of that. But it ended up that it wasn't necessarily that she was making a scene. She wasn't putting up with his crap. And she would tell me that. And he would turn around and say, well, she's a liar. It's really, I was reacting to her behavior. My ex-husband also, when I first started dating someone, I actually had a male at my house And while he was at my house, my ex-husband snuck around the side of my house to the window, started banging on the window, and shattered the window, which was scary, obviously. And this was like a new person. And then my ex actually went. Now, he went to my house, shattered my window, stayed for another minute or two, and then drove off. Well, when we went outside later on, there was a big key mark on the side of the guy's car. Can I tell you that he turned around and tried to tell me that it was not him that made the key mark, that he didn't do that? Talk about gaslighting. He also said he didn't have access to my emails or to my phone number, but he was checking my phone. And when I would question like how he got certain information, that's when he would manipulate and tell me that he had gotten that information from a friend of mine. But he was actually going through my emails. He was going through my phones. He had known the password. I had to change my cell phone number. But it wasn't until I started to get support, like professional support, that I started to really understand what was going on, because I was questioning everything. And once I actually started working with a coach and a therapist and sharing with some of my really good friends, my closest friends, what he had said about them, he was like, I never said those things, of course. And my friends would say, well, no, why would we say that? We love you. We don't like him. Something is wrong with him. And for them to just tell me that and for them to even just say, for example, hey, we've been seeing what's going on. We're seeing how he's manipulating you. We want you to know that you're not making it up. We've seen his behavior. So not only making sure that we getting the right support, but that we ask our friends like, hey, have you noticed these things? And ask what they see from their perspective. Because you'll be surprised, even the people that we think really like our significant other, they might be doing it to try to just make you feel comfortable. They might be doing to try to placate because they're concerned about you. So it's never a bad idea to ask your friends and family like, hey, have you noticed this type of behavior, and see what their feelings are. And, another really great thing to do would be to start writing things down. If you're going through that list and you're questioning like, okay, well, because I don't know what's real anymore. I don't know what's actually happened, what's not actually happened. I don't know if I'm making it up or I'm making a bigger deal out of it than it is. Start writing it down. Write down everything. And if you're afraid to write anything down, that tells you a lot about whether or not you should be in the relationship, because you should be able to have privacy to write down your own personal things in your own place that's safe. But if you write it down and go back at it, because I'm going to tell you right now, when I was writing my book and I started to really get help for what was going on, not only was I not making it up, I was actually minimizing it. I was actually in my mind trying to make it less bad than it actually was. For my ex to tell me that being strangled on my wedding night I didn't really strangle you. I just put my hands around your neck. It was my experience. You strangled me. I couldn't breathe. But when you start going through the list of the things, like where I was spit on, I was pushed, I was sexually assaulted, like all of these things that I'd been through with my ex, if I hadn't written it down and started looking, when I started going through some of the police reports, I was like, oh my gosh, none of this, I felt it. I knew that there was something wrong, but you get so crazy that you've been so manipulated, the gaslighting is so strong that you get really confused on what's real and what's not. And looking at all that information will help you see the reality of what actually happened. So, those are some like the top 10 things to look at to know if you are having to deal with gaslighting. If you're starting to watch this now, I definitely recommend going back, listening to it again. In fact, I'm just going to go through it one more time to make sure if you missed any of them that you go through it. So, number 1, sign that you're being gaslit. They tell blatant lies, so they make you question yourself. They deny things even if you have proof that things ever happened. Number 2, they use what is near and dear to you as ammunition. So, for example, your kids, your family, your education, and your position, anything they can use against you. Number 3, they wear you down gradually over time. They don't start right away. It's little tiny things that they do over and over again so that it's like a very slow burn. It's not just like, oh my gosh, that was terrible. It's these little things that make you start to question yourself. Number 4, they say one thing but do something completely different. So, I didn't strangle you, but they actually did. Like I was there, I remember. Number 5, they throw in positive reinforcement to confuse you. So they say something nice so that you get confused, because then you start to question like, well, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. And if I change, it will make it better. Number 6, they keep you confused. Confusion weakens people. They want to keep you constantly questioning, so you're off balance. So you look for them for stability. Number 7, they project. They accuse you of doing all of the things that they have done. Next one, number 8, they tell you things people have said to them. So they try to align people against you or make you believe that people are aligned against you. Number 9, they tell you and or others that you are crazy. And then number 10, they tell you that everyone else is a liar. And all of those things, again, is to make you turn to them so that you believe them and look for them for stability, so that you are even more needy of their attention, of their support. Because the more, it's like, if you're sick, you want someone to come and help you. And since they make you feel like you're sick, then they're there to help. Like, oh, here's my hand. I'm here to help you. Nobody else will love you the way I can. And again, I would hear this all the time. You're so screwed up, but I am willing to be here and help you. I'm willing to show you what a healthy relationship is. I'm willing to help teach you how people really interact together. Your friends don't really like you, but I like you and I want to help you. So again, it makes them seem like almost like the savior, that they're going to be the one to protect you and help you, when they're actually the one doing all of those things to you. So what do you need to do in order to get help for this? Get professional help. Sign up for David and myself. We can sign up for the Essential Toolkit, where I will send you my book and my workbook, and you'll get 30 minutes of a consultation with me. It's a $30 consultation with my book and my workbook. Definitely worth it. And it goes through some of the information we talked about with gaslighting in my book and in my workbook. Get support from a therapist if you haven't done that so far, and start writing things down. I cannot tell you enough how important that is, to start writing everything down. So if you are looking to get me on the phone and set up an appointment, just comment truth in the comments, and I will send you a private message and we can set up an appointment to chat. If you're looking for immediate support and you want to just the quickest, most available time you have, the phone number that you can text truth is to 631-317-4027. So you can text message me that if anybody wants to write that down. Again, that's 631-317-4027. So you can text message truth and we can set up an appointment. And, if you're looking for, you want me to just reach out to you here, comment truth and I will reach out to you. So Gloria, I see truth. I will reach out to you for sure. But let's talk, let's talk about getting you support. Let's talk about getting you the right resources so that you don't feel so crazy, so that you start realizing, hey, they're not the only person for me. There are actually healthy people. I'm more sane than I realize. In fact, you are probably the sane one in the relationship. And that's why it's feeling so confusing for you, because they're doing all of these crazy things to keep you around. And that's why we're feeling stuck. So reach out to people that are healthy, that are where you want to be, to get the right support so that you can make changes for yourself. So I'd like to hear, I've got about 2 minutes and then I have to go, but is there any questions that I can answer? I can maybe answer one question. I'll go through and I'll see if I see anything that is sticking out for a question. But again, if you are watching this late, I definitely recommend going back and rewatching the entire thing, because we go through 10 different tips so that you know that you're being gaslit. So definitely go through that. We always go back and respond to whatever questions come up. So feel free to ask those questions, even if this is a replay. All right. So, Jenya, I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. My soon-to-be ex received a text from a woman on his birthday while he was sleeping. I saw the text, took a picture with my phone, and he denied it even though he deleted and I had the picture. Yeah. Yep. That's a perfect example of gaslighting. You saw it, you knew it was there, and then they turn around like, I have proof. I can prove it to you. Because again, we're like, am I crazy? But I'm looking at it. I know I'm looking at it. And then they try to deny all of it, that any of it happened. Gaslighting is not healthy. If you're in a relationship and you're questioning whether or not something is truthful or not, you can't have that open conversation with someone and you're feeling so confused, that is a huge waving red flag. So let's jump on the phone, comment truth. I will reach out to you. We will make sure that you get the right support that you need. Gloria said mine keeps his phone on silent. Yep, that's a good hint that you need to be watching that a little bit more, and we can help you figure this out and navigate what's real and what's not real. Because I'm not saying that not everyone needs support in making some changes for themselves. Of course, that is what we need. And we can help you do those things to help you navigate what you need to work on for yourself and what they're making up that you need to work on, so that you stick around and stay with an unhealthy relationship any longer than you already have. So thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm so glad you were able to make it live. Again, make sure you share your comments. I will go back and answer whatever comments or questions there are. I look forward to seeing you in the group and talking to all of you when we get to chat. So have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the group. Bye.